And actually, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because I know me.
You know, so that's our life mission. That's the McShin's mission.
So you don't have to understand my boundaries to respect them.
Well, no, I'm the president and co-founder of McShin, a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorders.
How do you go about fixing the damage in the trust between the family after you get out?
Okay, I gotta work on that.
Celebrating my 6 months. Didn't have a cake.
Yeah.
Gosh, you showed up.
John Shenholzer here, live from the McShin Foundation in Richmond, Virginia. President and co-founder of McShin, also a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. For me, that means I've been clean and sober. And today we have a very special edition of Get in the Herd. We got two distinguished guests with us. And I'll go with the out-of-towner first. Doc, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's David Best. I'm president of the Recovery Outcomes Institute, and I'm the director of the Centre for Addiction Recovery Research at Leeds Trinity University in the UK.
Oh, very good. What part of UK? That's big. That's a big territory.
Leeds is in Yorkshire, which is the northeast of England. Still far too far south for me because I'm Scottish and I come from just outside Glasgow.
That's why the accent's extra hard to listen to, man.
I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
I'm not me and the King. We sound exactly the same.
You and the King. And on my right, I got our esteemed data collector, analyst, expert.
Hey, I'm Raymond Ruby. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and I'm the Director of Data and Quality Control here for the McShin Foundation. Thanks for having me on, John.
Yeah, this is awesome little pickup podcast, we call it around. You know, if a little warm, we do a pickup basketball game, but we do podcasts in the wintertime. But anyway, what I'm so excited about is I understand the value of collecting data on people in recovery and having recovery people being the collectors. So, Doc, real quick, break it down why that's so important.
Yeah. So, look, one of the things when I started doing recovery research about 15 years ago, you get loads of critical folks saying, it's just bollocks. People make it up. There's no such thing. You know, recovery doesn't happen. It doesn't work. There's no evidence for it. What you need is more and more and more treatment. And over the course of the last 10, 15 years, it started with a decent evidence base about 12-step. And now there's nobody can deny the evidence that Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, even things like Smart Recovery, they work. And how do they work? Well, we know how they work as well. But for me, the big breakthrough was when people started talking about recovery capital. It gave us a currency. It gave us something we could actually count that was consistent, quantifiable, and reliable. And what effectively it does is, it does a couple of things. The first thing it does is, it switches from measuring what you're bad at to what you're good at. So when I started, I worked as a clinician in treatment services in London 30 years ago. And all we did was count up how many drugs you're using, how many health problems have you got? How many crime problems have you got? How many risks are you taking? How many housing problems have you got? Tell us about your family problems. And it was miserable. You start talking about strengths, and it's a positive experience. It's a good thing to talk to somebody about your aspirations, your goals, your values, what matters to you as a person, and personhood is fundamental to this. The second thing, and Jessica and I were involved, we did this in a prison in the northeast of England, and we had 3 groups of people starting to gather data on recovery capital. One group was prison officers, one group was healthcare staff, and the third group was peers, other prisoners in the prison. And it quickly became apparent to us that not just were the peers as good, the peers were better at gathering the data. They got better answers, more honest answers, more in-depth answers, and they were passionate and they cared. And since then, it struck me that a big part of what we're doing is capacity building, saying to folk in recovery, you should be doing this stuff on yourself, for yourself. And this is proper, genuine science we're developing. It's no lesser than any medical science. You know, we're gathering information that allows us to answer questions about how much do different kind of programs lead to growth and recovery well-being. Who does better? What are the things that you can do that improve your outcome? So it allows us to develop this big series of questions that allows me to work with you and say, how do we help you to grow? But also me to work with McShin and say, what's McShin good at in building recovery capital? What are the areas for growth or development in? And look, a lot of my work now is we're just about to start developing a master's in peer-based recovery leadership at Leeds Trinity University. Why? Because with that, it will be no different from an MS.
What do they got to do to get a master's in that?
Well, you start with doing a graduate certificate, so you'll do 2 modules, then you'll do 2 more and get a graduate diploma, then you do 1 more and a dissertation, and you get a master's.
Do you got to be a college graduate to
No,
get one?
absolutely
So
not.
I could take that class.
You could take that class.
Online?
Anyone could. It'll be all online. And, you know, the whole point about this is, the phrase we use in the UK is called parity of esteem. And what we mean by that is, a recovery professional is no better, no worse than a pharmacist, than a public health doctor. You know, we want to get to the point that there's genuine parity, that they are valued the same, they're qualified the same, and that they sit at the same table with the same levels of knowledge and expertise.
Well, you mentioned recovery capital. I know there's different domains or whatever you call it. What are they?
Right, so there's 3 bits. 3 bits to this. So the first one's personal, and that's like the internal resources you have, the skills, the qualities, the capabilities you've got. But we know that for people to recover, they need to have positive social networks. And in my course of my career, I've collected about 3,500 recovery stories. Nobody does it alone. Everybody's recovery story involves people in groups who support.
Connection to recovery
Connections,
community.
just crucial, absolutely crucial. And then the third one is community connections, because the other thing that I learned really early on was you can't talk people into recovery. People recover by doing stuff. They recover by doing stuff with other people in recovery. And there's 3 parts to community recovery capital. There's links to the recovery community, to 12-step groups, to RCOs, to recovery housing. The second part is you still need links to professionals, to mental health, to housing, to education, training, employment. And the third bit is you need pathways into recovery community resources, churches, colleges, local groups like football teams, yoga classes, all those things that mean you don't live in some kind of 12-step bubble. You actually not only have your own journey, but you contribute to the well-being of the community you're in. You enrich the recovery community, but you also enrich the physical community you're in. And those are the 3 bits of community capital.
Yeah. Let me ask Raymond a question. Raymond, here you are. You're our data guy over here, right?
Oh yeah,
And you deal with red cap every single day, right?
I do.
And for better or worse, you know, it's pretty exciting, correct?
Well, I got to tell you, John, I love it. And you know, we were just in a training session yesterday. I was with Dr. Best and Jessica, and learning about, you know, the longitudinal research and how we're contributing not only to the recovery community but also to our physical community. Also, to piggyback on what Dr. Best was talking about. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, if you don't speak in the mic, they ain't gonna hear you.
All right, well, they can hear me now.
Can you hear me now?
But you know, it's more. So when we come into recovery, when we're fresh and we're new, we learn that it's not just about us. You know, there are big picture things happening there, right? And it's the same thing with the data. You know, we're not just collecting the data on a specific individual. It's contributing to the much larger whole, and that, you know, that data is going to eventually change the way treatment is conducted in the future, the way that one-on-one interactions are handled.
Let me ask you a more personal question.
Sure, go ahead.
Here you are, the guys from England,
Scotland.
Yorkshire, somewhere way up north near the Scottish border, but you're sitting next to them in a podcast. The inventor and creator of Red Cap. How you feel about that?
I feel good about it.
That's cool shit, ain't it, man?
It is, yeah.
I mean, you just can't go anywhere and get this kind of connection here. You know what I mean?
It's all about connections.
Yeah, we
it
mean
is all about
business at
connection.
McShin when it comes to connection.
Yeah,
man.
no doubt. I look. There's a reason why I sought out McShin to work here.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
tell them, Mike.
Oh, no, and you know this, John. I was kind of hounding you for about a year. It's like, hire me. And you were like, well, go see Jesse, who's the COO here.
Jesse's the gateway to employment.
He is the gateway to
Anybody
employment.
watching this?
But, you know, I was calling the office about, you know, once a month to come in here because I had just finished my PRS training and I was looking for a place to do my internship hours. And, you know, I don't know how else to say this, but, you know, excuse my language, Art, but McShin's got some big dick energy. You know, I wanted to work here because McShin is, you know, pioneer of a lot of.
Art, we got to up the rating, maybe R rating.
Yeah,
PG-13.
Yeah, they're going to demonetize this one.
You can edit that out, right, Art?
No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Good. Yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, big dick energy, and yeah, I wanted to be here. I wanted to be where the action was. I didn't want to, work somewhere else where I would just be doing caseloads and not, anything groundbreaking.
How do you like it here?
I love it.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah,
Ain't it?
it's very cool.
Yeah,
You get to barge in my office,
Yeah.
whenever you want to. So you keep me on my toes, John.
Yeah. Well, Doc, how important is it? You mentioned earlier when you was watching the 3 different professions do the data entry, and it was the peer that collected the best data or the most deepest, I would say. But, to me, my common sense says anytime you got a peer working with the peer, chances are good you're going to get a better outcome quicker. To include, like when I work with people, I'm thinking, okay, I might be doing step work with somebody, so I'm going, wow, you need to see a therapist about these issues. So I'm able to really get that person to go see the appropriate clinician for the issues. So even though I'm not trained or qualified medically to make suggestions like that, but I do it, and it seems to be pretty valuable. And a lot of times I'll talk to kids, I go, wow, I know a perfect job you would be suited for, and I'm able to link them to that job. So is data speaking wise, can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, look, the first thing we know is recovery is fundamentally a contagion that goes from one person in recovery to another person.
Contagion, I love that word, man.
And the role of professionals in the process is basically, I think, to create the conditions around people that maximises the chance that somebody who is an attractive recovery champion transmits recovery to people early in the journey. And we know that how recovery works is through processes of social learning. In other words, I look at you and I think, I want what you've got. Mm-hmm. That's how recovery transmits. We do that, and whether that's you as an individual or you as McShin. And, we all want to be around and associated with attractive, engaging people, groups that we're proud to belong to, that give us a sense of vision and hope for the future. And for me, obviously a lot of people spend far too much time filling in forms with professionals. We were at the Hart prison earlier this week, and there was a guy there. One of the prisoners was saying when we spoke to him, what I like about this is I feel a sense of belonging here, but I also feel like doing the rec cap allows me to chart my growth. I can chart my personal growth, and I can feel it among my peers. And there's no question is that for recovery to happen, you have to create the circumstances where recovery values and identities transmit person to person. And, for me, I'm delighted and proud to be here. It's one of those things, I've known about the McShin Foundation for years. I only met you in passing in October. Yeah. But this is a big thing for me as well. This is a big thing.
You met me in Cardiff. We just discovered early about
Indeed.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
we didn't even realize it.
We're both too old to remember as well. But, this is one of the iconic places for recovery in the world.
In case Winfred Owens was watching this.
Yep.
Yeah. When we were at the
Cardiff
living room launch, apparently we were both there at the same time. So good for you, Winfred. But back to this, the red cap data. I was excited. See, I had it when I was 5 months clean. I went on my 3rd deployment in the Marine Corps. So I'm on a battalion landing team, and the next guy. Well, only 2 of us were in recovery on that whole deployment. He had 6 months clean, 1 more month than me. And we both made it back 6 months later clean and sober. So that was telling me a new person could be helping a new person. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about Red Cap. You don't have to have a lot of years in recovery. You can have a guy with 90 days clean working with somebody 30 days, doing the data, and the chances are good you're going to get about the same outcome, not only collecting the data, but both of those people are going to be able to excel in their recovery by doing this. See,
and that's a big thing for me is that, working as a clinician or you work in clinical services, there's a big thing that says, I'm neutral, I'm the professional, doesn't matter. But any meaningful recovery dialogue, both parties should benefit.
Recovery dialogue, and it can be by new people in recovery.
Yeah, totally. And the whole point of the rec cap should be, it shouldn't just be the person in front of you that improves and feels better as a result. Both of you should, because it's about creating that radius of trust, and that genuine human connection is what it starts from. And I love the fact that we've heard people this week in Virginia talking about that whole thing about, for them, it's a genuine human connection, a genuine dialogue, and that's much more important than any of the data.
I wish you were here on a Wednesday night. You could witness this, but Raymond does every Wednesday. We have all our house leaders come together and our backup house leaders. So we got about 30 people grouped up every single week. We do this weekly, and we remind them, do your red cap data, do this, do that. But Raymond, you get to witness these get-togethers, and to me, it's exciting to watch these new people. Some of them are bitching, some are complaining, but some of them are bragging about what they're doing right. I mean, what's it like for you to witness red cap in action?
No, I mean, it's great. And so one of the things that that I've been able to see here in the last 4 months that I've been on staff is sort of we've been implementing a change management strategy, because it's one thing to just introduce the technology. Huh?
Speak English, man.
No. So we roll out the technology to the next level. Like we've had RedCap for years, but we're really trying to implement it now to its fullest potential. And so it's for me to sit down with everybody and say, hey, where are your pain points? Where could we be doing things better? I don't start with pain points, of course. I'm like, what do you really like about the system, right? Because I want to focus on what's strong about their interactions, not what's wrong with them, just like a peer would. And some of the feedback that we've been getting back is fantastic. Hey, I could see how this would make my life a lot easier. And then when I explain to them, like, how just their individualized stuff is contributing to the whole. And like I'll show them one of our reports, like all active participants, and not drilling down too far into the data, but just to say, like, this is the bigger picture. Like, it's not just about us; it's about everyone. And like, this is how McShin functions as a community, and this is what McShin looks like as a community. Because it's one thing to be in a room with 150 people and look around and say, yeah, I'm a part of this. But when you see that visually represented in a spreadsheet or a graph, and I'm a Virgo, so I'm kind of a nerd. I love spreadsheets. But when you really see that and you get to see, like, oh wow, look how much I really do have in common with everybody else.
And look, it's so important to me, this, because one of the things I get to see all the time in my career is I go to these fabulous recovery services and you see all this innovation, all this incredible work that's been done, and you say to whoever's running the program, right, how do you document or evidence this? And they say, no, I know it works. I don't need to evidence it. And you think, well, that's great. I'm really glad you do, but you're not going to convince any state funder or, you have to get evidence for it. And a big part of what we've tried to do is to say, don't stifle the innovation. Don't do stuff that stops people doing that incredible creative spark, but find a way of capturing it and measuring it. And I see my job effectively as come up with different ways of counting how recovery success works.
Now, touch a little bit that you were in a jail, right?
Yeah.
Now, we primarily use it for recovery residences, for recovery program, and now how? Like, we're in 3 different jails. I'd love to be able to start entering some of these guys on that. Do you got something special for the jail population?
No,
same stuff.
And basically, we had a meeting with Department of Corrections Monday afternoon. We're trying to persuade them to extend how many jails or prisons it's used in here. We're just about to start in 18 prisons in England, rolling out 18 adult prisons in England. And there we will do a few tweaks and adaptations, but not many. The idea is it's the same growth of strengths you want inside the prison as you want outside the prison. Some of the wraparounds will be different, but basically it'll be the same.
Now, a lot of them are going to want to know how they do when they're released, which means you got to keep them checking in.
Yeah.
What incentives do they get for that, or other than bragging rights?
Well, I mean, I guess bragging rights is important for us,
It's for us around here. We love to brag.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, you've got some of the bragging rights, but some of it's about continuity. So ideally you want, if people are coming out of jail and they're going into a recovery residence, they're using it as well. So you get that continuity flow. So we're getting some of that here in Virginia. There's a really good stuff.
I'm going to help you work on that one, because I like that. I like where you're going with that. I can help with that.
And for us, one of the things in the UK, we're trying to get probation interested. So we've got prison interested. We want to do that follow through and then look at people once they come out as well.
Now, switch up a little bit here, because I know time is short. You traveled the world, the free world, America, UK. You've seen a lot of recovery community organizations. You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot of clinical organizations. Would you rather be working with recovery organizations or clinical organizations?
Look, I'd much rather work with recovery organizations.
I knew you were going to say that.
And look, I'll tell you just one quick example before we finish. I did some recovery training about 10 years ago in North Wales, and I went round all the workers. Normally I'd put up the stats and say, you know, of all the people who have a lifetime substance disorder, the general estimate is that 58% recover. But instead of that, what I did was I said to all the clinical workers, people who work in drug and alcohol teams in Wales, what do you reckon is the average percentage of people who eventually recover? What was their answer? 7% on average. And if you live in a world where you only see people who never leave your services or in a revolving door in and out, we call this the clinical fallacy. Because you only see people who fail, you don't think anyone succeeds. And you know, it just strikes me, it rots your soul. So you get burnout, you get stress, you get hopelessness, you get emotional labour and distress. You work in a recovery organisation, it's about connection, it's about hope, it's about meaning, it's about empowerment, it's about joy. And I don't know about you, I'd certainly much rather work in that world than work in the clinical world where it's all doom, gloom, failure, risk management, risk reduction. I'd much rather work in a world where it's like, watch people flourish and blossom.
Yeah, what would you like to see the recovering community do different or do better? You know, you've got a good taste now.
Yeah, and I feel like we're starting on the journey of saying, don't be anonymous only. Be out there. Be visible. Give back to your community.
Be loud and proud, baby.
Be loud and proud, but actually make sure that all the stuff you do to make the lived community you live in a better place, people know about that. They recognize every recovery walk, recovery event, all of that is chipping away at stigma, exclusion, making recovery more accessible, making recovery more visible, making it seem more achievable to people who are struggling. And I think that is really just about getting out there and extending it, saying, you know, okay, what we've done for recovery and with addictions, we can help with people with mental health problems. It's the same thing. Isolation, exclusion, lack of belonging, lack of trust, and creating those kind of handouts to marginalised groups anywhere.
You're kind of describing the McShin Foundation mission.
Well,
I mean,
it's a meeting of minds, John.
meeting of minds. Raymond,
Yes.
any last word? Doc's on a schedule here.
Well, you know, I got to spend all day yesterday with you, Dr. Best, and you know, thank you for coming into Virginia. As always, I look forward to our future dialogues about how we can make this system better.
Thank you so much, Raymond, and thank you so much, John. It's been a
Last question.
Last question.
All right, you finally visited McShin Foundation. You know, you haven't been here long. You really didn't get to see everything, but you got a taste, man.
And I reckon, you know, there's a cheats evaluator message. If you want to check whether a recovery community works, there's a 5-point checklist. Does it create connection? Does it generate hope? Does it give people a positive identity? Does it allow people a sense of meaning? And does it empower? And I would say after a couple of hours here, it's 5 out of 5. So well done, John.
There you go. Good
Thank
job.
you
You heard
very
it from the doc himself, man. And I co-sign this message. Folks, thanks very much for tuning in today. And as always, more later. Y'all have a good day. Thanks.